She just gave the Indiana Fever the biggest warning sign of her entire career, and almost nobody caught it. Welcome back to WNBA Analysis. What you're about to see might be the clearest sign yet that the relationship between Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever is cracking wide open. And by the end of this video you'll understand exactly why her own college coaches just showed up to watch it happen in person. This morning, Caitlin Clark was pulled from the game by head coach Stephanie White. And before we break down the footage, shout out to IDX Texas for flagging this first. His exact words, "I'm just going to say this and let it play out. If she leaves this team, this season or ever, the Fever will celebrate like they just won the lottery." Now watch the body language closely. Caitlin Clark gets subbed out, walks straight to the bench and doesn't even glance at Stephanie White. No acknowledgement. No eye contact. She just sits down and stares straight ahead. That's not frustration over a single play. That's tension that's been building for weeks, and the evidence keeps piling up that something is fundamentally broken between this franchise and its franchise player. So does the video evidence actually back up what Caitlin Clark has been saying? If you don't already know, we posted a full breakdown last night dissecting her press conference comments. In that press conference, Clark smirked and admitted she's tired of playing roughly 25 minutes a game. She said flat out, she can't find a rhythm in that kind of role, and she needs that rhythm to play at the level everyone knows she's capable of. Right now, according to her own words, the Indiana Fever isn't allowing her to reach her peak as the best player in women's basketball. Here's what actually sparked this controversy. In that press conference, Caitlin Clark said something that sent shockwaves through the entire Fever organization. She smirked, not joking, not diplomatic, looked straight at the camera, and made it clear she's frustrated with her current minutes restriction. For context, during her record-breaking college career at Iowa, Clark regularly played 35 to 38 minutes a night. That's when she dominated. That's when she broke scoring records that may never be touched again. That's the version of Caitlin Clark the entire basketball world fell in love with. Now she's being capped around 25 minutes in crucial games, and she's saying so publicly on camera. And that matters. When a player takes a grievance to the media instead of keeping it behind closed doors, it usually means the private conversation's already failed. But minutes aren't the only story here. We also need to talk about Lisa Bluder and Jensen showing up to the game, front row, center court. Why were they there? Is there more to this than a casual visit? Because think about it from Lisa Bluder's perspective. Imagine watching everything coming out about how the player you built is being managed, the restricted minutes, the rotations, all of it. Lisa Bluder is one of the greatest women's basketball coaches of all time. In my opinion, she's exactly the coach Caitlin Clark still needs. Bluder was her Phil Jackson. And right now she doesn't have that anymore. Here's where it gets even more revealing. Bluder didn't just show up. She flew in on a private jet with Jensen, the current Iowa head coach and Bluder's longtime assistant. These are the two coaches who built Caitlin Clark into a generational talent. They know her game better than anyone alive. They coached her through 2 national championship runs. They trusted her with the ball for 38 minutes a night in the biggest moments of her life. So think about what it means that they felt the need to be there, in person, watching. Lisa Bluder is retired. She doesn't have to show up to a regular season Fever game. She could be doing absolutely anything else with her time. Instead, she's boarding private jets to check in on the player she spent years developing. That's not a casual visit. That's a mentor who's concerned, showing up to see the truth for herself. And when your college coach flies across the country to watch you play a random regular season game, that sends a message. And everyone in that arena understood exactly what it meant. Now here's a thought that's been circulating, and it's a fair one. If Caitlin Clark ever does leave Indiana, and the Fever eventually have to line up against her, they'll have to guard her like every other team in this league does, with no restrictions, no committee offense, no minutes cap protecting them. And this time there might finally be real accountability. I've said this before. This situation is starting to look like Connecticut Sun 3.0. Honestly, it's closer to Vanderbilt 3.0. The pattern always plays out the same way. Sow corruption, reap corruption. Sow dysfunction, reap dysfunction. You get back exactly what you put in. Look, if this is the first time you're watching one of our breakdowns, I want to be real with you for a second. This channel exists because of people like you who actually care about the truth in this league, not just the headlines. We put in the work every single day to bring you the real story behind these games, and it genuinely means something when you hit that subscribe button. It tells us you want more of this. It tells us this analysis matters to you. So if you've made it this far and you believe Caitlin Clark deserves better, do me a favor, hit subscribe right now, turn on notifications and become part of this community. It costs you nothing and it means everything to us. Now let's get back into it. Let's talk about the coaching comparison that keeps coming up. People are comparing Stephanie White to Doc Rivers, and honestly that might be too generous to White. Doc Rivers has a championship ring. He's had real success across multiple stops in his career. A more honest comparison might be Darvin Ham, the former Lakers coach who got fired after just one season despite making the playoffs. Why did he lose that job? Because he couldn't manage his star player. He made baffling rotation decisions. He lost the locker room. Sound familiar? Stephanie White walked into Indiana with massive expectations. She was supposed to be the coach who finally unlocked this roster's potential after last season's playoff appearance. Instead, we're watching the same problems resurface, except now they're amplified because White doesn't have the built-in credibility with the players that a proven winner would have. Christy Sides, the previous head coach, at least had the excuse of being new and overwhelmed. What's Stephanie White's excuse? She's supposed to be the experienced veteran who knows how to manage egos and maximize talent on a championship-caliber roster. But here's the deeper issue, and it's bigger than minutes or rotations. It's philosophy. Lisa Bluder's philosophy at Iowa was simple. Put the ball in Caitlin's hands and let her cook. Trust her decision-making. Give her the freedom to create. That system produced the highest-scoring player in women's college basketball history. Stephanie White's approach looks like the exact opposite. Restrict the minutes. Run the offense through committee. Don't let any single player dominate the ball. That's a fundamental clash in coaching philosophy, and Caitlin Clark is caught directly in the middle of it. Now let's roll that clip again because it's the piece of evidence that's impossible to explain away. Watch this. She can't even look at Stephanie White. This is the moment. This clip alone is damaging. There's nothing the organization can say to spin this. Caitlin gets pulled from the game. She walks to the bench. She doesn't look at the coach. She doesn't engage with the assistants trying to talk to her. She just sits down, arms crossed, staring at the floor. That's not a player who's bought into the system. That's a player who has mentally checked out of the moment. And here's what makes this so significant. Caitlin Clark has never been a diva. Throughout her entire college career, she was known for being coachable, being a great teammate, and elevating everyone around her. She never had issues with Lisa Bluder. She never publicly complained. She never showed body language like this. The fact that we're seeing it now tells you the situation has deteriorated to a point where she genuinely can't hide her frustration anymore. Body language doesn't lie. You can control your words in a press conference. You can give the diplomatic, media-trained answer. But in the heat of the moment, getting pulled from a game you feel you should be dominating, your real feelings come out. And Caitlin's real feelings right now are crystal clear. She doesn't fully trust this coaching staff. She doesn't agree with their decisions. And she's tired of pretending everything is fine. That's why Lisa Bluder and Jensen showing up to that game hits different. I don't think it was a coincidence. I think Bluder was there to see with her own eyes exactly what's happening to the players she helped build. Two legendary coaches sitting front row watching quietly. They know something isn't right. Just like the rest of us watching from home already know it. Now let's address the elephant in the room. What actually happens if Caitlin Clark leaves Indiana? Because that possibility feels more real by the day. That original social media comment laid it out perfectly. If she leaves, the Fever will celebrate. They'll act like they just won the lottery, finally free of the attention, the scrutiny, the pressure that comes with having a generational star. They'll go back to running their system exactly the way they want to. And every fan who came specifically to watch Caitlin play will walk out the door right behind her. But here's where the karma angle gets interesting. If Caitlin leaves and lands on another roster, the Fever will eventually have to face her. They'll have to guard her. And this time, there's no internal minutes restriction protecting them, no committee offense limiting her impact. She'll be fully unleashed. 35 minutes a night. 30 shots if she wants them. And Indiana will have to live with every consequence of pushing her out the door. Think about the parallel to Connecticut Sun and Vanderbilt, organizations that mismanaged generational talent, pushed them away, and then had to watch them thrive somewhere else while they slid back into mediocrity. It's a pattern this league has seen over and over, and right now Indiana looks determined to repeat it. What we're watching from this organization is disrespectful to everything Caitlin Clark has built for this brand and this league. I'll say it plainly, this is not going to end well. Not for the fans. Not for Caitlin Clark. And it definitely won't end well for the Indiana Fever, because whatever direction they think they're moving in, it isn't forward. If Caitlin Clark walks away, this franchise could go right back to being one of the worst teams in the league. And remember, Kelsey Mitchell never made a playoff game, let alone won one before Caitlin Clark arrived. Year after year of losing. That's the reality of this franchise before its franchise players showed up. Here's the bigger picture Fever fans need to sit with. Before Caitlin Clark arrived, this organization was irrelevant. Kelsey Mitchell is genuinely a good player, but she never carried this team to the postseason as its leading scorer. Season after season, the Fever were one of the worst teams in the WNBA. Empty arenas, no national TV slots, barely any media coverage. They were an afterthought in this league. Then Caitlin Clark gets drafted and overnight, everything changes. Sold-out arenas. National television games every single week. Merchandise flying off the shelves. The Fever became relevant again. They made the playoffs for the first time in years. And how does the organization respond to that gift? By trying to shrink her role. By capping her minutes. By running a system that doesn't actually maximize what she does best. That's organizational malpractice, plain and simple. When you have a generational talent on your roster, you build the entire operation around her. You cater to her strengths. You give her every possible chance to succeed. Instead, the Fever seem determined to prove they can win their own way, even if it means handicapping their best player to do it. That's ego over results. Pride over championships. And it's going to cost this franchise everything it's gained over the last 2 years. The Lisa Bluder comparison is instructive here. Bluder understood exactly what she had in Caitlin Clark. She built an entire offense around her unique skill set. She trusted her in the biggest moments of the biggest games. She gave her the freedom to be great, and the results speak for themselves. 2 national championship appearances, a wall full of records, and the most electrifying player in the history of women's college basketball. That's what happens when coaching philosophy and elite talent actually align. What we're watching in Indiana right now is the opposite. A coach trying to fit a Ferrari into a compact parking space. It doesn't work. It can't work. And the longer this organization keeps forcing it, the worse this situation is going to get. That private jet visit from Bluder and Jensen carries even more weight in this context. They see exactly what's happening. They see their former player being mismanaged in real time. They see the joy getting drained out of her game. And they showed up anyway to send a quiet but unmistakable message. We see you. We support you. We remember exactly who you really are. That's the kind of support system every elite athlete needs. And honestly, it says a lot about how isolated Caitlin might feel inside her current organization right now. The real question isn't whether this situation is sustainable. It clearly isn't. The real question is how much longer it drags on before something finally breaks. Does Caitlin request a trade? Does the front office finally admit they're mismanaging their own golden goose? Does Stephanie White get fired mid-season, Darvin Ham style? Something has to give because the current trajectory doesn't lead anywhere good. And here's what makes this whole situation so frustrating for anyone who genuinely loves great basketball: we're being robbed of peak Caitlin Clark. We saw exactly what she's capable of at Iowa when she was truly unleashed. The logo threes, the no-look passes, 40-point performances on the biggest stages in the sport. That player still exists. She's just being held back by an organization that seems more focused on proving a point than actually winning games. That original social media comment about karma might turn out to be prophetic. Sometimes organizations get away with mismanaging elite talent simply because the player doesn't have better options yet. But Caitlin Clark will have options. Other franchises will offer max contracts. Other coaches will promise to build entire systems around her strengths. And when that day comes, the Fever will have no one to blame but themselves. Go back and watch that bench footage one more time. That's not a player going through a rough patch that a pep talk fixes. That's not someone who just needs extra motivation. That's a superstar who has already realized she might be in the wrong situation, and she may already be counting down the days until she can leave. The body language, the press conference comments, the visible frustration. It all points to the same conclusion. This relationship is strained and it might already be beyond repair. So what should actually happen from here? Ideally, the Fever organization recognizes the problem and makes real changes. Move on from Stephanie White. Bring in a coach who understands how to build around Caitlin's actual talents. Design an offense that puts the ball in her hands for 35+ minutes a night. Surround her with real shooters who space the floor properly. Do everything necessary to show her, through actions not just words, that this organization is genuinely committed to winning with her as the centerpiece. But that requires humility. It requires the front office admitting the current approach isn't working. And based on everything we've seen so far, this organization doesn't look capable of that kind of self-reflection yet. They seem locked into their current plan, even as it visibly crumbles, even as their franchise player expresses public frustration, even as her own college coaches fly across the country just to check on her. The tragedy here is that none of this was necessary. Draft a generational talent, build the whole system around her strengths, trust her to be great, and let the wins follow naturally. It isn't complicated. And yet somehow, the Fever have managed to complicate it to the point where we're seriously discussing whether their franchise player will demand a trade. That's organizational failure at the highest level. And for the fans who bought in specifically because of Caitlin Clark, this has to sting. You bought the jerseys. You bought the tickets. You tuned into every single game. You defended her against every unfair criticism online. And now you're watching in real time as this organization risks squandering the biggest opportunity this franchise has ever had. You're watching them potentially push away the exact player who made this team relevant in the first place. That's a hard thing to sit through as a fan. The clock on this situation is ticking. Every game Caitlin spends sitting on the bench, visibly frustrated. Every press conference with another thinly veiled criticism. Every moment of tension between her and this coaching staff. It all adds up, and eventually it reaches a breaking point. There's a real chance we're already there. That bench footage might end up being the exact moment we look back on and say, that's when it became irreversible. So here's the question I want to leave you with. If you're Caitlin Clark, how much longer do you tolerate this? Do you give it one more season and hope things change? Do you request a trade this offseason? Do you simply run out your rookie contract and walk into free agency the moment you're eligible? Because if things don't change dramatically and soon, she is leaving eventually. And when that day comes, the Indiana Fever will go right back to being exactly what they were before she ever arrived. Irrelevant, losing, and forgotten by the league. Except this time there won't be anyone else to blame. Drop your take in the comments below. Does Caitlin Clark finish out her rookie contract in Indiana, or is this relationship already beyond saving? And before you go, if you enjoyed this breakdown, you genuinely don't know how much it helps this channel when you hit subscribe. This isn't some corporate ask. This is us trying to keep bringing you honest, in-depth WNBA coverage that doesn't sugarcoat anything. Every subscriber, every like, every comment tells us to keep going. So if you're rocking with WNBA analysis, make sure you're subscribed, tap that bell so you never miss a breakdown, and I'll see you in the next one. WNBA analysis.